So we've started into a series called Virtue and Vice, and I had put out a draft board where I asked people in the congregation to look at these pairings week after week, to look at these pairings and to draft one of them. And you drafted peace. Right away, it's the thing you most wanted to talk about. Why?
Right. I have been thinking since I immediately volunteered to do this, I've been thinking a lot about why peace.
Yeah.
And I kind of landed on three things. And maybe it's a good thing we like chatting with each other because we have not prepared anything here. I'm just going to say what's on my mind and we'll see what
truly
what
unscripted.
happens. It is, yes. So one thing that comes to mind that peace has been a connector for me is, so I grew up in a fundamentalist evangelical church. It was very intense for most of my life. And when I was like about 20 years old, I left the church I took a 20-year hiatus and then, came to something new and different. During that time, there were a lot of people that I knew who would say, like, almost in a weapon way, like, we're praying for you.
Oh.
And I felt often like, because I was the backslidden, I was the one who had been lost, right? And I felt this, I almost for a long time was angry that people were saying that they were praying for me. Mm-hmm. And there came a time when that turned and I started saying to people, thank you. I can always use peace. Will you pray for peace? Because it felt like this feeling of people putting their thoughts, beliefs about who I should be on me. But if someone was praying for me for peace, we all need that. So that is something that I've really held on to. And then I came to this time when I had a very serious ovarian cancer diagnosis. I was in a difficult place. I already struggle with clinical anxiety and depression. So there's like this fear, intensity, all this stuff going on. And I came to start praying for myself for peace, because that's the only thing that I kind of felt safe asking for. And I think that has transitioned now because I'm a super empath. I feel people's, pain when I talk to them. I'm like very interested in prayer. And the thing that I feel like I can always pray for other people and rely on is that there is a deep well of peace that exists inside each of us. And it's always there. And it feels like I have a hard time praying for healing, honestly, for people, because I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. I have a hard time praying for, maybe joy isn't possible for some people, but peace, I feel like there's a safety in asking the divine for peace for myself and for other people. And it like, I feel like we can live on it. Those are my three things.
Wow, Sarah. Let's walk through those a little bit because I have lots of questions.
Okay.
Let's talk about not praying for healing.
Mm-hmm,
so one of the things you and I have done, if you don't know, Sarah is our lay leader. And so she's given shape, pastorally to some of the spirituality around here, partnered with the SBs and the spiritual disciplines. But really, your heart in leading us in the prayers of the people and in your heart for worship. So when you talk about not praying for healing, one of the things that you and I have really, really wrestled with, both, between losing parents that were beloved and our own things, and is not praying for healing. This is one of the things we pray for health and wholeness because we're not in control of what that means. And so because we're not convinced that this prayer for healing, it just comes so loaded with baggage. But to say that we can confidently pray for peace, the interesting thing that it implies is that we know that the divine, good, the eternal, or what transcendent, whatever we name, wants peace.
Right.
That's, I mean, that's like an actual confident propositional statement.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so confident in that?
Well, I guess, I mean, I think a lot about, I guess part of it is because of my anxiety.
Okay.
That if I can get to personally, if I can get to a sense of peace, then almost anything gets a little bit more okay. And I also think about, I mean, it's just a very common picture in my mind, like Jesus in the boat with his followers in the storm.
Mm.
And the metaphor there of the intensity of the storm, and Jesus rising up and saying, "Peace, be still." And that it's like it's there for us. It's there for us to grasp. And where Jesus says, peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you. It's like, this is a thing that it's a gift. Like I don't know how else to say it except that I feel like it's a gift that is inside of all of us. And it ties into that Wendell Berry poem that we heard too, because I feel like nature is a source of that, a kind of well of that kind of peace. And where we can't necessarily count on, quote, healing our bodies, we can't, because our bodies are going someday, right?
Mhm.
We can count on the peace that sustains us through that inevitable stuff that happens.
I'm inspired right now. Over the years, you and I have become actual friends, and you are a soul friend to me. You help take care of my soul. And I remember one time sitting at a coffee shop and I was telling you about somebody I was very bent out of shape about how they were treating me.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked just two really simple questions. You said, you said, were you talking like in like a long, and I said, no, I was speaking as quickly and succinctly as possible. I was just trying to, like, I couldn't even get a sentence out. They wouldn't let me finish a blessed sentence. And you said, can you imagine what must have been going on in that person that caused them to not even allow you to finish a sentence? Like, they're not at peace. And I was like, well, that's not where I was going with this. But this conviction that you have about peace, but it shows up in different areas. And it's actually become a gift to me because I'll keep it in my back pocket. And there are times where I'll be looking at a situation, whether it's a committee meeting or a relational situation, or even my own spiritual struggles. And once in a while, I'll be like, I feel like I'm missing something. And I'll pull peace out and I'll put it in. I'll be like, oh, this is what's missing. There's no peace here. If Jesus promises to leave us peace and we're praying for peace, are there other things, areas in life you think we might need to put peace in the mix and then it'll make more sense or change? Like, are there other things in your mind that this could apply to?
I mean, I kind of think it's the basis of everything. And that, I guess, because I have been a meditator for a long time, and that is an important part of my spirituality. I think that has allowed me to feel that kind of quiet that we have to have in order to make anything else make sense, or to be able to hear the voice from within us or hear the voice of the divine. It's just like, it feels like peace is the foundation to me. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Which brings me to my last thing I wanted to ask you about. So last week, Becca was at the table. She was talking about envy. It was a wonderful conversation. A group of us hung around at the end and we were talking about like all of the different aspects of this that we could flesh out. So I'm driving home from worship last week and I had this one nagging thought in my head, which is I wish I had asked about different personality types and temperaments, because I wonder to somebody who's an achiever, right? Right, versus somebody who's more playful or more whatever we want to, however we break these things down. But I wonder if something like we were talking about envy last week, if Instagram affects different people different ways. And this, one of my favorite sayings is the same sun that hardens the clay softens the butter, right? And I wonder though, if, because you said you don't know if joy is always possible. And I wonder if this thing about peace, if it looks different for different personality types. And pastorally, I've been thinking, because I knew you were coming to the table, but I didn't know what you were going to say. I've been thinking, I wonder if each of us could name what we mean when we say peace, if it looks different for different of us. Do you think so?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so funny that you said that. Last night I was talking to, I have a frequent FaceTime calls with my aunt
Yes.
and my my cousin's daughter, who I call my niece, who's 7, and then one of my cousins. And I was telling them that I was going to be talking about peace today because we sing this Fruits of the Spirit song always, that my aunt made up, and I was telling them about this series, whatever.
Wait, are you going to sing it for us?
Oh my gosh, I knew I shouldn't have said that. Okay, here we go. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self-control. Okay, so I was asking them, what does peace mean to you? And you know, we kind of went around, and the 7-year-old said she thought it means rest. And I thought that was so apt and clear. And that kind of is what it feels like to me. It feels like rest deep down. That Psalm 23 kind of feeling is what it feels like to me. And my aunt said, wow, you should ask people what peace means to them. People always want to talk in church and nobody ever lets them. And I was like, you've never been to our church. So I think it's funny that you brought that up, because I can only know my experience and you can only know yours. So it has to be something a little bit different for all of us.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I'm just going to invite us to take a minute, and can you name or picture what peace would look like for you, what it means to you? You may not be able to, but let's just take a minute and see if each of us can do it.